Oh, God is so good.
Yeah. I think we got it worked out.
I think we got it worked out.
Yeah.
Thou shalt be saved. Oh. Welcome to Aletheia Radio
again
for the second time tonight.
Yes.
The only place where you will find the Christian worldview as well explained as you can possibly explain it.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Had some technical difficulties. We still don't know what caused it, but
hey,
I think it's working. It sounded good when we tried it and record. But
let us know on the chat.
Yeah, let us know.
We are back on.
We're back
Greatly
on.
Appreciating you guys.
We're talking about dating.
Yes, we're talking about dating. We kind of talked about all the other stuff
already. We're just gonna jump right into dating
because we're jumpers.
Yeah,
you know, we're jumpers. We jump around. We jump up,
jump
up,
and get down.
All right,
guys.
All right, so one thing you have to have in relationships is patience
and a right connection.
Yes.
You need a good connection.
You need a good connection. Kind of like an audio connection.
Yeah, like an audio. You need a good connection.
And then you need to have patience.
Hey, Joe, how do we sound, Joe? Do we sound better? Can you let me know, Joe?
Can you holla at your boy?
Joe?
Let's see. Yeah, mine takes forever. Yours is a lot faster.
It is. Joe,
so, yeah,
please.
so good point. You do have to have
sounds good.
Patience.
Sounds good. Yes, perfect. Yay. Okay, jump right in.
Alrighty. Yes.
Yeah.
So
all right.
So before we rob you of all your time,
sorry, guys.
Let's just get this thing under control. Okay, so
oh my goodness.
So what we just figured out is that, you know, in the relationship between the sound and the video, that there was something going on, and Sean brings up a very good point.
It's connection.
It's a matter of connection. Now, what constitutes connection between two people? Is it bonding through pain? Is it you know, familiar cultures? Is it similar circumstances? Or should it be a quality that we ourselves have to work on and that we have as a standard, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important thing. I think when we're talking about dating and why people are just dating just for the sake of dating and not actually considering their long-term future is because, you know, as a race of creatures, we have a bad tendency to run away from responsibility and run towards temporary comfort. And that's a problem. And it's problematic because what that does is it produces other little ones just like us that run from commitment and run straight towards conflict for some reason.
Yeah.
And it's the worst habit. Like, so Christians, we call that generational sin. You know, if we're going to speak Christianese properly, we call that generational sin. And the importance of recognizing what that is mostly because our habits are learned. We're creatures of habit. We grow up, we see what we learn in our houses, and we keep that as truth, and we grow up thinking it's truth, and then we come up with sayings like "live your truth." Well, that hasn't served any of us going too well. Thank you for being on, Bobby, Joe, Margie. Thank you so much. So what does the Bible say about relationships? And
what's the purpose?
Yes, and what is the purpose of a relationship?
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I doing that again?
Yeah.
I'm all over the place. Okay. So what does the Bible say about relationships? And so purpose is important. Having different roles in a relationship.
Like we're talking about dating. Like what would be the purpose of dating someone?
I mean, wasting time is pretty common for nowadays. You know? It's funny. So like I said before, my wife and I were having this conversation with her son last night, and he says, "Mom, people don't date anymore."
Yeah.
All right. People don't date.
Yeah.
We looked at each other.
Did you ask him what do you call it?
I don't even think he had a definition.
I'm just saying I would have been like, so what do you call it?
Yeah.
It's just in a relationship.
It's because it's still a relationship. And when you say the word relationship, it kind of freaks people out. But ultimately, it's still a relationship. Like we have a friendship relationship. We have a work relationship. Me and my wife have a marriage relationship. They're all relationships.
And it's being able to separate those relationships because some of them differ. like mine and your relationship is different when we're in work mode
than here.
than as actually out in the world as friends.
I don't get yelled at on the show. So but you see, and that's the important thing. And yeah, Joe Smaro, it's called hooking up. Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah,
because it's never just
well, like I guess it gets back to what the purpose is. Like, are you like, what was the question that you posed? Is it dating for dating, or is it dating for marriage?
You see, because that's the problem.
Are you trying to figure out, is this the one for me?
Well, that's a scary thought.
I think that's the purpose of seeing if this relationship's going to work out.
Yeah. A man will be married, to his wife, and he will leave his mother and father.
Right.
And that scares a lot of people. But why does it scare a lot of people? And I think it's because we don't really have a good sense of what truth is. And so for that, we can't be true to ourselves. And we definitely can't be honest to other people, because relationships take honesty, and it takes brutal internal honesty before you can address the other person.
Well, think about it back then. I mean, there was no dating. It was like, this is the person you're going to marry.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing now. When you say marriage, people are like, oh, but you know what's funny? Most of us do. What is it like? Still like 75% of people get married. Those same people when they're younger be like, oh, no, I don't want to get married, but you're going to get married one day. So are you getting married because you've run out of options, or are you getting married because you really found the person that you feel God has given you? It's funny because a lot of people don't want to get married for different reasons.
Right.
And listen, some of those reasons sound really good at the surface, but if you had to break them down, it all breaks down to one thing. We fear committing entirely to someone else. I mean, listen, we fear committing entirely to God. So,
I think that's what one of the misconceptions is that you can date and it's not going to be a forever thing. Like, I can get out of it when I want.
Oh, so what did you learn about those hormones recently that bond you to a person? That was really interesting.
Yeah, well, well, that's actually when a female has when they go through the conception stage of when the sperm meets the egg. And then as the baby's growing within the womb, there's a hormone that's released to create a bond between the mother and the child.
It happens in the process of making the baby baby.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It happens actually at conception,
Yeah. And so if you think about it like that, like God designed a way to create a bond between two people. So when you are building bonds with people that you don't have a true intent to spend a long time with, when you separate, it's a very devastating thing for all of us. I mean, for men and women. I mean, not to mention it springs insecurities up. It's responsible for a lot of the well, not responsible solely, but it aids in those destructive insecurities that we get. And back to the honesty part, it's become a cultural thing in relationships, and we all do it to some extent, where it's easier to force the person that you're in relationship with to address their issues in life while covering yours.
Yeah. I mean, I guess a good question would be is like, why should you date?
Yeah. Well, okay. So why should you date?
Why should you date?
Because eventually you're going to meet someone that you're going to go crazy over, and you're going to love that person, and you want that to work.
Right.
That would be a good thing to work. It's funny because like people say, oh, this person's too young to get married. No, you're not too young to get. People say, oh, like, but you don't know the person yet. Let me tell you about someone who's been with someone for quite a bit of time. You don't ever fully know that person. You never will.
No.
You will become one in the sense that you'll be very similar to each other, but we don't even know ourselves. 100%.
Well, I think the world right now, the way it's looked at as dating, is same thing with everything else. It's like try before you buy.
Yeah, exactly. And let me tell you something. People aren't cars.
Yeah.
My wife just said something.
She
said people have a false love for a quick fix versus long term.
That's with anything. Yeah,
plays a big role in relationships.
Well, that I have that with food.
I have a very loving relationship with food.
That's there's actually,
because I'm reading Sunday, right, Bobby?
Yeah, I'm reading a book about nutrition right now, and there's actually chemicals that are released even when you hear something about food that releases that, hey, it makes me hungry. Like there's a hormone that goes, hey, you know what?
Yeah,
you are hungry, but even when I'm not, it's just telling me that
it's like, listen, you're still hungry.
Yeah.
You start getting delirious, start making up names for hormones.
Right. So what's the world view of dating? What do you?
Well, so the world, what I would say, the world.
How does the world view dating?
I think the world views dating as taboo, and they're very fearful of it. I think the problem that we're fearful of commitment is reflected on dating.
Yeah, I think one of the big things, I think it's also self-serving. It's pleasing myself.
Absolutely. It's like, what can you
what person pleases me the best?
And that's a problem, because if you look at the different types of personalities in the world, and I'm not talking about like Sean has a type of personality, I have a personality. I'm talking about serious personality differences, defects that we all have to some extent, but most people have tremendously. So my wife and I were having this conversation recently about something she saw, because psychopaths, for example, the difference between a psychopath, a narcissist, and a sociopath, there's dramatic differences. Whereas a psychopath has zero empathy, and they do everything with the intent on what they gain out of the relationship. A sociopath is more based on, well, I want people to think I'm a certain way about this relationship until all the crap blows up in your face. And then a narcissist is not completely, it's not that the narcissist is not empathetic, because they do have empathy in them, but it's only for matters of self-serving purposes, and they actually do feel bad, but it just can't override their desire to manipulate a person for their benefit. Now, a lot of us have these tendencies, or have had these tendencies in our lives, and it's made relationships difficult. So how do you know, when you pick a person, if they're doing things that are self-serving, especially when you're young? I do not want to be a young person right now. People say, oh, don't you wish you could just go back and be 20? No.
Well, no. You know what I was told? Like, it was almost like you don't know somebody until you live with them, which is in a way true.
Let me tell you, that is very true.
But
my wife found that out the hard way.
What you learn in love, it's no matter what it is, it's a process where you're going to work through.
And that's the problem. People don't have that perspective. Like, okay, well, we're married. Let's fix this. Let's do this no matter what.
Or even if you're dating and you're saying, okay, dating is one thing, but then having a relationship where you're living together, having sexual relationships with one another, it's different from
you're married.
It's different from that you're dating. And okay, does this guy or gal have the right morals that I have, or the same views that I have? And you learn about one another in a relationship. Just like in any relationship, the only way to learn about somebody is spend time with them. And I think that's a form of dating, is just spending time.
Well, yeah. But what are you supposed to get out of that time? And I think that's where we lose out. I think a lot of the times we're looking for somebody to complement us as a person.
Do you remember that movie Santa Claus? Of course you do, with Tim Allen.
Tim Allen, yeah.
The point where he's dating and he goes in and she starts singing and she's like, wah, wah, wah.
And it's pretty awful.
And it's all awkward, and he's like, yeah, she's not the one for me. You know, that's dating should be like, okay, it has nothing to do with having sex with someone or living with someone. It's saying, hey, do we connect? Do we have this connection? Do we have do they see what I see? Are they living the same worldview that I have?
Okay, so that's what I wanted to get into right there. That is an important thing. When you date a person, if you're looking past their values to immediately get some type of temporary gratification, whether it be sexual, whether it be financial, whether it just be complimentary, whatever it is, you're going to have problems. And you want to be able to take a look at the person that you're dating or courting and be able to say, okay, now what type of similarities do we have to, like, so there's the different personality types. For example, like if you're a very passive person, you're very agreeable, you're probably going to have a lot of conflict with a person who is very disagreeable and who is very confrontational, because what's going to wind up happening is you're going to wind up coming into conflict with them over how you address social interactions and situations with people, and it's going to make the other person uncomfortable, whether you're the person who doesn't react or you're the person who does or has a tendency to overreact. You're going to butt heads for that. Two people said they froze. Oh, did the screen go black? That's normal, right?
Yeah, no, that's normal.
Okay.
What froze?
All right, so how are we? Are we still moving?
Yeah, no, I got it. Yeah,
oh, yeah,
right. Yeah,
oh, I froze over here. Look at me.
Yeah, you froze. Black, is that normal? Wow. Yeah, no, we're good.
Yeah, the video froze, and the audio is still going.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me see.
No, it seems fine.
What's going on? Oh, where is it?
Yeah, we're having all sorts of problems right here tonight. Yeah, you disappeared.
Okay, yeah.
I think I don't think it has nothing to do with what you just did. I think it's just.
But you see how it worked, right? Okay. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, when you have two different types of personalities, and you have a person, like, for example, who is very giving, and another person is very selfish, obviously you're going to have a problem. And then you have introverts and extroverts, etc., things like that. Thank you. Yeah, I'll keep a lookout for that. So if you have a person who's extremely introverted and it's dating a person, and you're dating a person who's an extrovert, you're going to go out, you're going to have social interactions and stuff, and one person is going to look like they want to go home all night, and the other person is going to be having a good time. But and so how does that affect two people when they're interacting with these two different types of personalities? There takes an extreme amount of humbling to get past that. Thanks, guys. Wow. It takes an extreme amount of humility to get past that. Right. So for example, one of the things that we were talking about before is Romans 12:10. Be devoted to one another in love, honor one another above yourselves. So now it was funny because Bobby and we were having a conversation with someone last night. And so because these things do work both ways sometimes. So be devoted to one another in love. It didn't just say be devoted to one another. If it just said be devoted to one another, we all know what that means. But what does it mean to be devoted to one another in love? It means the truth. It means the uncomfortable truth sometimes, that when you're trying to address issues with other people, the best place to start is in yourself. And then it says honor one another above yourselves. What's happening in the world today that I guarantee you wasn't happening due to the communication differences is that nowadays we're finding out that people are treating other people better than they treat themselves. So that definition is very confusing to a lot of people, because think about it. When you were younger and you thought you loved someone, the one thing you would do is you would shower them with gifts. You would shower them with compliments. You would do anything to show that you cared, right? Yeah. But you won't do that for yourself, but you'll do it for other people. So sometimes also, what that could mean is that, take a look at how you treat yourself as well. And I'm not saying to overlove yourself or anything like that, but you do have to take care of the basics of your life if you're going to be any good or impactful to anybody else.
Yeah, I think in a Christian worldview that we have to be seeking Christ. I mentioned this before. One of the things I teach my kids, and my daughter especially, is that God has to be so consumed in your life and in your heart that gentleman needs to know God and find God before he can find you. Because in order to see who you really are, he has to see God first, because then he can find out who you are, because your heart is consumed in him. I think that's a big part of the Christian worldview. I mean, in Corinthians 15:33, 1 Corinthians says, do not be deceived, bad company ruins
good character,
ruins good morals. And I think that's part of what dating is. Dating should be seeing if
good influence
is seeing if this person is, because I think spending the time with a person, you start realizing, hey, this is what they believe, this is what they stand for. This guy or this girl is going out of his way or her way to do the right thing, and seeing how they interact with others. It's not good even to date where you're dating alone, where you date in a community of people, to see even how they react in that community of people.
Well, that's the most, and that's the most important thing, because seeing how a person reacts around other people will give you a good idea of what you're headed for.
Right.
Because if you're different around crowds of people than you are with that person alone, then there's something lacking in that person's personality and relationship with you. And I think that's a very important thing, and that has to do a lot with personality differences in general. But so now Ephesians 4:32, which is Ephesians is definitely one of my favorite books of all times. It says, be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you. Now, yes, honey, we're going to talk about boundaries. Absolutely. So be kind.
You got to put some boundaries.
You got to put some boundaries. We were getting there.
Yeah.
So be kind and compassionate to one another. Think about that.
Right.
First off, it says be kind, which is very similar to 1 Corinthians 14.
Well, the scripture verses that you're mentioning,
kind,
I think the scripture verses that you're mentioning should be what you see this other person doing. So if you're dating, before you even start in the boundaries, when you're dating, you should be seeing, is this person kind?
Yeah.
Are they loving? Do they look out for others before themselves?
Are we on the same papyrus?
Yeah. Are we on the same page? As far as what do I stand for? And I think a big part of being a young woman or man going into the world where you're looking for relationships, you have to understand what you believe in first. And because if you don't understand what you believe in and what you stand for, you're going to be swayed by what the other person believes in and what the other person stands for.
Yeah, and that's the problem. A lot of kids are sent into the world thinking that the person that they admire is the proper person to influence them. Influence is very easy.
From our generation, I think I'm pretty sure that you grew up in the same way I did, where it was how in the world view anyway would be the woman that pleases you the most would be the woman that you need to have the relationship with.
And that's kind of a dangerous perspective to have as a young man, because what winds up happening is that you judge this woman by how she pleases you, and when she stops pleasing you in that way, you hop onto the next one, and then you find something different about this one, and then next thing you know, you have a compilation of women that the one that you're supposed to marry will never live up to. Because one woman cannot be 200 women, cannot be 10 women, cannot be 2 women.
And the same thing goes on a woman's side. I don't know their perspective per se.
He's got to have this. He's got to have that. That's a dangerous.
Or that they're missing something that they didn't have, and it's something that they're trying to have that guy live up to.
Exactly. Like what matters to you most? Like what are you looking for? Would you want this guy to be financially set, have a very nice car, a very nice house, but spend 0 time with you, treat you like junk? Is that what you want?
Or even if he didn't treat you like junk, just spend 0 time.
Spend 0 time.
Because in order to, live that lifestyle, you're working constantly.
I mean, yes, you constantly have to work, but that's insane. So like, are you substituting material possessions and comfortability for love?
I think that's looking at it. Yeah. What's the importance of what do you see was what is important in a relationship?
Absolutely. And that has to do with your values to determine what you actually value. What is your main focal point of your values? Is it love? Is it connection? Is it interaction? Is it something that's eternal, or is it something that's temporary? Because let me tell you something, and it's funny. It's funny because like Yvette brought up boundaries. We don't really. I wasn't really prepared to have boundaries when I was younger. My parents never spoke to me about that.
There was no boundaries.
There was no boundaries. It was just like, oh, wow, like she's this or she's that, date her.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, I didn't know what this girl's long-term idea of life was, or if her parents had even given her an idea what that was.
Also, I wasn't concerned on the inner parts. I was more concerned of the outer parts.
Yeah, exactly.
It didn't matter to me. I'll figure that out later.
Yeah. And
if I knew what I knew now, I would have been seeking more of the important parts of what, what I believe in and what I stand for, which changed, of course.
Yeah, but that's my point. What you believe in is only a product of what you were raised in.
Right.
So if we come out into the world with no definition of what we're supposed to believe in, how could we attribute that to anything that's going to be stable and solid for it. There's no foundation in there. So this is why the Bible is very important, and this is why the things in the Bible are very important as Christians, as people that are believers
because we can define the boundaries.
Absolutely.
You know, like with my kids, speaking now as a father, I see the boundaries that I'm trying to teach my kids, and for me, it's like, you know what, I don't want you to have sex before marriage. And it's not because, you know what, you'll never be happy with this person, because that is like maybe a small percentage of what the relationship should be.
Yeah.
You know, more than being able to be as a friend to that person, or have that loving relationship where it becomes, you know, it's not a physical thing. It's all about you guys growing together and learning from one another. And then that physical thing is the bonus.
Yeah. Because you never look back on your relationship and say, man, like that's, you know, like it's the most important thing that ever happened between me and this person was physical. You always like, man, like this person was nice. The things that you truly miss the most, like you can say that stuff on the surface, but a young guy who's not really a man yet is not going to admit those things either.
You also might have somebody that might be, you know, physically to you, like blow you away, and then it's the worst person in the world.
So why? Yeah, exactly. And and it's the total worst person in the world, but you're so consumed by the physical attributes or sex or whatever it is that's got you roped into this relationship,
right,
that you're looking past all the really dangerous things
stuff
about this
right,
person.
Right.
And then when it winds up 10 years later, 2 years later, 6 months later down the line, you're saying, how did I get here?
Yeah.
Well, it's really simple. What they do, Jordan Peterson broke this down. He says, I'm going to encroach on you an inch at a time, and I'm going to back you up. And when you protest, I'm going to stop. And then I'm going to encroach on you again. And next thing you know, you're miles back, and you say, how did I get here? Little by little.
It's a slow fade. It's like that song from Casting Crowns.
Absolutely.
It's a slow fade.
It's a slow fade.
Yeah.
And sin is like that in general, in all of our lives. It's like you wake up one day, you start it, this is not bad. And next thing you know, you're so immersed in the sin, you say, man, I have a problem.
Right.
You know, and then even when you have the problem, it's difficult to address, because then there's shame and there's all these other layers of emotions that are on top of it. So how does boundaries play a role in dating with the intent of to marry?
Well, I think that's also where you get the definition of what dating should be, and the purpose of dating is same thing when we talk about truth. That's something that God defines.
Yeah. Yeah. And so how do we know that that is truth? Well, number one, truth withstands the test of time. You know, new ideas, give it time before you jump on board. Trust me. There's a reason why the old stuff works. And it's not that you're taking it back to the Stone Age. And it's not that, you know, that there's more to life that has never been seen since the beginning of man. Trust me, it's not. It's like when you're looking at a younger person say something about the direction of their life that you're going, and you're looking at them like, yeah, huh? You think that? Wait till life gets a hold of you.
Yeah.
We'll see how that direction stays on point, you know? But honestly, I mean, you have to take that into perspective when you're dealing with younger people too. Like, they really don't have a clue if they haven't been there already. And it's good to guide them and stuff like that. And they may not want to be guided, but you at least have to be truthful and honest about it, you know?
Yeah. And I think a big part of that is God's view of dating, you know, thinking about that, you know?
Yeah. Well,
you know, and then it's remembering that what is the most important part of your relationship. You know, in Matthew 10:37, it says, whoever loves his father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Whoever loves his son and daughter more than me is not worthy of me. So if you tend to love that person more than you give your devotion to God, then there's a what I call as living out of order. So now you're living out of order, and that's when you can allow those things to sneak in, and a slow fade happens.
Yeah, well, and living in that order is really important. So what does it mean to put God before your children, to put God before your wife, to put God before your husband? A lot. I mean, when I first heard that, it was a little offensive. I was like, but if God loved me, he would know I'd have to put my children first.
Right.
That was the first thing that I thought.
Right.
And then so understanding it now, I'll try to make it as simple as possible, is that you are no good to your significant other, to your kids, if you do not seek God first. And what does that mean to seek God first? Well, to seek the text behind what he's actually trying to say to
Well, as I
you.
say, that seek the kingdom first, and all these things will be unto you.
Yes. And that is there for a reason. So as Christians, our job is to peek over the edge of the kingdom, look inside, see what God's trying to tell us, and bring it down to the earth. So what we mean by that is listen, I'm not saying that these solutions are easy. Nothing about this walk is easy, and it's very difficult.
You think about it. What if you had to live it all over again, knowing what you know now? I think it'd be harder.
Yeah, it would be twice as hard, because I know what's out there and I know how it appeals to my flesh. But on the same note, I do know the benefits of living a godly life.
Yeah. And the consequences.
My best. Yeah. And the consequences.
I think more of it, the consequences too, you know?
Because I mean, and that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why it's hard, because knowledge of the consequences should scare you enough where you're like, maybe I should.
Fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, right?
Why is it the beginning of knowledge? Because he's trying to save you from making a drastic mistake.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a lot of what we had to do with about like being with a lot of people and then having that one person live up to them or whatever it is. But like, for example, so about boundaries, like, so what are some comfortable boundaries you can set while you're dating or while you're in a relationship, that maybe even if you've been in a relationship for a long time, just boundaries you've never set?
I think the first boundary, like if I was to give like my daughter advice or my son advice, would be to restrain from physical, not total physical contact, restrain, like holding hands and things like that. I'm talking about real physical contact where you're letting then.
And we say restrain, we mean with chains, tow ropes, anything.
Yeah. But just restrain from that, because see where also the head of that gentleman is, or that female.
Well, yeah, you don't want to give. I mean, you want to, but you shouldn't want to give the most precious thing to you that you have, the most precious part of you, to someone who really has no intent in sticking around. And that's something that I didn't know. I was not saved for a lot of my adult years and stuff like that.
Same with me. Yeah.
So like, growing up, it was just something that was part of the culture, said, well, it's okay to do this. And I didn't have those boundaries. What I should have looked at it as, and if I would have known with the knowledge that I know now, is that God created a young girl, right, as a baby, and she's going to grow up to be a woman and a wife and a mother, and she's already a daughter of someone who loves her, parents that love her, brothers, sisters that love her, a God that loves her. To take that into consideration means that you have a proper understanding of what love actually is, and therefore you can pour that into somebody else.
Right.
I wasn't capable of doing that because I didn't have that consideration for another person.
Right. And also I believe that we lost, you can get your, especially as growing up in the age we grew up, and even now, I mean, it's so prevalent even in media and things like that, is the sexuality of a person. So you can skew, and I tell this with my son most of all, because I know from my experience as a man, you then tend to view a woman differently when you start putting those different views in your head, like pornography and things like that. You kind of lose that, what a woman really should be to you, on how a woman, how you portray a woman and how you look at her when you just start looking at women physically only.
Yeah. And to discipline yourself with that is very important, because number one, like as married men, you don't want to dishonor your wife. It's bad enough they think you're looking at everything anyway. You know what I'm saying? I'm not.
Speak for yourself.
Not sure. No, I'm joking. But what you want to do is you want to honor your wife by being comfortably faithful.
Yeah, but even as like my son, I tell him, when you're seeing these things, even in arbitrary things, not even pornography, but just on the view of relationships on the internet and things like that, is that how it really goes? No. Once you start learning, it's something that you work towards with a person.
Exactly.
Really. Just like any friendship, like our friendship, it's not. You know what? There's some friendships like your family where, like, if you moved away or something happened, we would always be friends. It would never change.
Absolutely.
It would never change.
Well, and those are the important things about relationships, and especially for for getting an idea of what you expect out of a person in a relationship, don't use social media. Don't use that, because let me tell you something. Instagram models are not Instagram models in real life. They're not.
Yeah.
They're people. And no matter how tempting something may look, remember, the more tempting it looks, usually there's a lot more baggage behind it too.
Yeah, you know what?
When you try not try so hard, but when you're putting yourself out there so much, there's a lot of we all deal with this, and this is why I'm saying it. Approval issues, self-image, and stuff like that. Like, people are people. People have problems. And we need to stop looking at people as just an image and actually as people.
Yeah, you know what? I just thought of this too. It's sometimes we do this with a lot of things where we tend not to wait on God and for what He has for us. And what we tend to do is say, you know what, I know better, so I'm gonna go for this. When in the meantime, He had something intentional for us, where you might not see that in the person where you think, like this girl that I'm involved with, or this man that I'm involved with. It doesn't seem right to me because I want, more physical relationship. I want more of a financial relationship, whatever it is.
I want.
And what happens is you don't see all right, God has an intention for this person in your life. And it's something that it's going to work. It's going to take time over time. It's not an instant thing. It's like what we're bred as, like a credit card people, is buy now, pay later.
Yeah.
Or try it now, don't worry about it later, kind of thing. Where relationships it's like the person in Costco with the chicken on the toothpick. I always fall for the chicken on the toothpick. I keep
going back out. Well,
why you go back to food?
Oh man, I'm starving right now.
Yeah, I know.
But that's a very true thing. Like, people
you miss out on God's blessing.
Yeah.
You miss out on what God intended for you. It might get you there eventually, but wait on it. Don't just jump into it. You don't need to rush a relationship with, having sex or even moving in with somebody or any of those things. You should be working towards a certain goal in your own life.
Don't desensitize yourself from all the things that is going to be amazing later on in life. It's like if you've never had, all right, I'm going to use a food thing.
I was going to say, that's what I'm saying.
If you've never had an ice cream sundae, right? And somebody was like, listen, you see this picture? Right. I'm going to give you one of these, but you got to wait 1 year. That's going to be the best ice cream sundae you've ever had.
Right. But if you had it every single day.
But if you had it every single day, you'd just be like, I want yogurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not how it works. Like, too much of anything is not a good thing, with the exception of God.
Right. It's also what are you putting first?
What are you putting first? So we don't want to keep you guys too much, because there's been a lot of madness going on here today.
That's all right.
And the devil is working.
Yeah.
Working.
Yeah.
Don't take your eyes off.
The enemy is real.
Enemy is real.
Enemy is
real.
Struggle.
No, I'm sorry. The fight is worth it.
Yeah, the fight is worth it.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing in relationship. I could tell you that.
Yeah.
Is you might go through some hard times, and even for the married couples and stuff out there, you're going through hard times, ups and lows. You want to give up.
Smacking you.
You want to walk away and give up. You know what? There's gonna be times where you need to say, you know what, the struggle is real, but the fight is worth it.
It's worth it.
So you need to fight. And if you ain't fighting for who you love or who you care about, then it won't be worth it, because you're not fighting for it.
Yeah, you can be like, I'm not fighting for you.
Yeah.
It's like, good.
Yeah.
Then you don't have me.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that's a slap in the face, let me tell you.
Yeah.
That was your cue.
Slap in my face. No, you gotta. I wasn't paying attention, man. You gotta give that to me again.
Paying attention. You see, our relationship is failing because he ain't paying attention to me. I'm sorry.
Better knock it off.
So take your relationship seriously. I think we should probably continue this one again. We should go more into things and stuff.
So we just do things.
That's what we do.
We just talk about.
So now that we have these bugs worked out,
hopefully
you can tune in Wednesday nights.
Well, we're looking for a good tech guy. If you know.
Yeah, some a producer, somebody wants to sit down and push some buttons with us.
Yeah,
every Wednesday at 8:00 on Aletheia Radio's Off the Books, your favorite Christian podcast.
Yeah.
Wow, that was
Join
like
us.
A shameless plug.
Yeah, that was great. That was great. So anyway,
we love y'all.
We love y'all. We're gonna end it there.
Good night, everyone.
It is what it is.
Don't forget, seek the Lord. Not everything else.
Stay away from the ice cream.
Stay away from the ice cream. All right. I'm going to go shut this bad boy down.
All right. Peace.
Next week, we're going to talk about things and stuff again from the Christian lens.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for dealing with these issues with us and staying with us. We appreciate it.